Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. Today we will go through some string tensions from Munich. We will talk about the week that passed in tennis, and I will rant on a little bit about rackets and strings. Possibly, you never know. That's usually how it goes. First of all, I want to say I'm becoming kind of an oracle with my predictions. Almost. I got Zverev right. Told you that he would win in Munich. Felt like not a shocking prediction, but the way he's played before, it could be an earlier loss, but he was seed number one, went through the draw. I want to give kudos also to Ben Shelton, his final opponent, that he actually plays the clay court swing. My buddy Nikola Racic mentioned this in his video about Americans trying to jump onto the clay court wagon as late as possible. I understand they're going to spend a lot of time away from home with the clay court season and the grass court season all in Europe. But it's nice to see him playing early, getting into the rhythm of clay court tennis, being so different. One of the beauties of tennis is, of course, all the different circumstances you have, like the surface, the conditions, the opponent, the balls, the rackets, the strings, and whatnot. So there's so many variables that you have to get accustomed to. So Zverev played well. He was a bit too good for Shelton in the final, but still nice to see Shelton on the red dirt in Europe. And nothing shocking there. I also predicted that Carlitos would reach the final in Barcelona and that he would win, but I was wrong. There was one guy who had something to say about that, and that was Holger Rune, who is back to title-winning ways. We know his potential. Sometimes his head does not seem to be quite screwed on properly. That's my prediction. Usually his shot selection, maybe sometimes a little bit the mental focus seems to be lacking a bit, but when he's on, he's very, very, very good. And Nicola said in his video that he could be like a top 3 player, and I agree. The potential, the talent is there. He has an amazing forehand, backhand, moves really well. It's mainly like the shot selection in the head that usually goes a little bit, and sometimes he doesn't seem 100% dialed in the earlier rounds in tournaments. But when he gets up to speed, he is very, very good. As Alcaraz fared in the final, lost in straight sets, was a tiebreak in the first set. Second set, Alcaraz had to bring out the trainer. That puts a little bit of a question mark on his physical health running into the rest of the clay court season now in Madrid with the 2-week Masters. We don't like 2-week Masters. I don't. Most people don't that I ask. I don't know why they have them. I guess they make more money because there's more TV matches or whatever, more days of broadcasting, sponsorships. But it feels too long. I think it's a hassle for the players. They have to stay away. If you lose early, then there's no tennis for you to play. Yeah, it's a lot of issues with these 2-week Masters. Monte Carlo is a 1-week Master. Runs great. So I don't understand. I think they have to make some changes. Sadly, the tour is often not very player-centric. And I think a player-centric approach would be to make it a 1-week Masters as it used to be. I don't think there was an issue. And we're just adding more weeks to the calendar, which is already overpacked if you're a top player. So, yeah, it's a little bit weird, this Masters structure, this schedule we have in professional tennis. I've talked to so many people about that on the podcast, and it's becoming kind of like, tiring to listen to maybe, but they need to do something about it because the two-week Masters are just very annoying. Anyway, that's Madrid. And we have a few players going in with strong focus, some good form. How is Alcaraz feeling? We don't know. Sinner is not yet able to play, although he's practicing. We saw him on the court with Jack Draper. So Sinner is getting ready for Rome. Rune now in great form, can be a threat. Djokovic, big question mark. Lost to Tabilo first round in Monte Carlo. Yes, I saw him here 2 days training at Puente Romano here in Marbella. It's hard to say how good it looks or how motivated he is based on a training. He looked to be in good spirits overall. What does that mean on the court? We will see. He was training with Lloyd Harris, the session I saw. So, time will tell. I think this could be the last year or the penultimate year, depending on his motivation. But at some point, the motivation and the body and everything with age will start to diminish a bit because, he's already done everything you can ask for any tennis player to do. He has some records left to break, but I don't know if he wants every record in the book or if he's just want to play until he's not happy playing anymore. So that was ATP in Munich and in Barcelona. Then we also had a WTA large event in Stuttgart. Final today was a bit strange to have a final on a Monday. Some Eastern celebration stuff. I don't know, but we had some interesting results. Also, some interesting stuff happening. Harriet Dart, the British player, told her opponent, or actually Louis Bosson, she told the referee that Louis had to wear deodorant or should wear deodorant or something. It's a kind of a salty, underarmed comment. Haha, it was very strange. I never heard of anything like that. However, I know you can get salty when you're losing, and I've done that myself. I've seen many players do it, and it's completely natural in a way, although you should always try to maintain a classy or somewhat elegant approach, I think, but it's tricky when you're under the gun and you're playing tennis and it gets competitive and the juices are flowing and your head is not maybe flowing with the juices or whatever. So that's over. Just a small thing, but it was pretty noteworthy. Another interesting event was Ostapenko maintaining her amazing head-to-head, increasing it and making a bagel out of it against Swiatek. 6-love head-to-head. Ostapenko has a lot of game and she puts a lot of pressure on Swiatek, and Swiatek is not able really to handle it. It was kind of that dead fish handshake that you see on the WTA Tour, not so much on the men's tour. Yeah, she's in not a great mental state, it looks like, from a bystander, and her result has not been great. It's a huge question mark before the French Open if Swiatek is going to be one of the favorites. I mean, she will be, of course, having won it several times, but this is not her best season so far. It's a struggle, and it looks to be more of a mental struggle than any physical struggle or anything like that. Well done to Ostapenko, though, who is a bit of an anti-hero on the WTA Tour, but we like anti-heroes, kind of create some drama, create some interesting ambiance around the tour. So not everyone can be, Roger Federer or whatever. So it's good to have Ostapenkos out there. And I predicted her to win the final, and I'm not going to check the result in real time, and she did. 6-4, 6-1. Very, very expected, I was going to say, but no, well done, Ostapenko. When she's playing well, she's playing amazingly well. And 6-4, 6-1 is a big result against another huge ball striker in Sabalenka. So Ostapenko in great form, someone to watch whenever she's playing like this, and could be a threat to the French Open, of course. But we will see. Time will tell. If you want to know what racket she uses, I will tell you very soon, but you can also search on tennisnerd.net for pro player rackets on the ATP and the WTA Tour. She uses the Wilson Steam BLX 100, as do many, like Raducanu, Badosa, Diane Parry, and a few other players, Mira Andreeva. It's a very popular model on the WTA Tour. You cannot buy this racket anymore. At some point, I hope Wilson brings back some Steam rackets, or at least one of the Steams. We will see later this year. But they are good rackets, and she won with her frame, the Steam 100 BLX. Kudos also to Elina Svitolina. She won her first title in around 2 years. Her 18th title in total, if I'm not mistaken. She plays with her Diadem Axis 98. Only player using Diadem on this level of the tour. And they got her through the draw. She was number 1 seed, if I remember correctly, in Rouen. All right, so that was a little bit what happened this week on the tours. I got an interesting sheet from Munich. Not super fascinating, to be honest. Like, I know some of you might be bored of string tensions, but when I get these sheets, I want to comment a little bit on them. We have 2 historical tensions on this sheet. Roger Federer's from 2021, COVID year, 22.5 gut and 23.5 poly. And that's as low as I've seen him go ever, I think. He's usually around like 26 with the gut and the poly. Poly being all the power. So this sounds a lot lower, but it's there. But the more interesting one is Thomas Muster. Remember him, I'm sure you do, who strung his PT57A, that pro stock that is not so popular on the tour anymore, but used to be kind of a mainstay by many players. He used ISO Speed Classic at 43 kilos. 43 kilos. That is a lot of tension on the racket. You have Akeri on the WTA Tour playing doubles using a similar tension with Laxlon 4G. That's even more crazy. But yeah, Muster, ISO Speed Classic, 43 kilos. Zverev back to the Gravity Pro, confirmed by a German press. Also up in tension, quite interestingly. 21.8 kilos and 22.8 kilos, as you can see in the sheet. Aliasim, on the other hand, has lowered his tension from my memory to 21.20. That's 45.44 in pounds. That pound transition is not always easy. I'm trying to keep it in my head. RPM Blast Rough is his string. But otherwise, there's nothing really shocking in the sheet. Humbert 20 kilos with 4G makes all the sense in the world if you're playing in a blade, for example. That Van der Sandschulp, who hits big, uses a little bit higher tension, like 25 kilos with RPM Blast, is not a shock either. We've talked about Cerundolo, about Istagut, their tensions and strings before. And Navone, 4G, 49 pounds. And Goffin playing full bed all power, 22-21. So there was nothing really that fascinating here to dive into deeper, I would say. But I just wanted to mention it since I got it. And it had that historical tension. For whatever reason, I don't really know. But it was there. All right, so what's happening in the Tennis Nerd Lab? We have several new string reviews coming out. You might have seen the Restring Vivo. Great string. Really enjoyed that one. And you could put it in pretty much any racket. I've tried it in so many, as I said in the review. It's very good. There are other good strings. I've had a positive string period. Sometimes I test strings and they're very boring or not something I'd use, for example. But Solinco Mac 10, a softer string, review to come. Tourline, the Otoro Tour, which is the stiffest string in Tourline's string lab. That's a good one. Tourline Otoro Spin, a little bit softer. Quite spin friendly. And there will also have some IsoSpeed strings. As you might know, I went to the IsoSpeed factory in January, and I've been kind of swamped with other things to publish on the site and not gotten around to doing the video yet. So that will be out as well. So there's a huge string jungle out there. If you want some help wading through it, Machete in the Jungle, I recommend you go into the recommended strings page. There's loads of content about strings. If there's in any way a question or something we should work on that could illustrate something more, please let us know in the comments. So we'll try to work on that. In terms of rackets, Head has announced that they are bringing out the Boom Raw, a racket I did not see coming. It's, I think, some kind of sustainability frame, meaning like eco-friendly. We will see. It will be revealed tomorrow when you listen to this. So keep your eyes peeled. There will be more content, and we will review this racket, of course, as we do with most rackets that are new. Otherwise, there's not that much in terms of rackets happening. It will be a bit slower now until the US Open rolls around. Then we will get back into the racket season, which was crazy now in January. I've talked about that. I've suffered severe racket fatigue and also felt a little bit in the arm because if you test too much, then yeah, your technique goes, you're gripping differently, you're hitting different strings, you're hitting different everything. It can really be a problem. Same with shoes, of course. If you're playing with 4 different types of shoes all the time, then you're going to get some issues with your feet. I'm pretty sure. It's at least in my experience, So good for me that it slows down. I can focus a bit on building my own game up because that's usually not a priority for me, but I would like to do that. And I played a lot lately, every day for a week or so. And shout out to Reboots, not sponsored. Recovery Arms and Pants. I've been using these almost daily. I can recommend any kind of process where you are warming up properly. I do these HIIT programs. I've talked about them before. Even if you do 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, doesn't matter. It's better than nothing. It's really helped me and my knees and injuries I've had in the past feel a little bit easier to get on the court. I am warmed up properly. I've taken a bit of more serious approach, which is about time. And then if I have a long day on the court and a heavy one, the Reboots Recovery is great. It's like compression, and you have an app on your phone. You put on these pants for the legs or these sleeves for your arms, and it gives you kind of like a compression massage, and it makes it feel better. Like it's been a great tool. I think my main thing is like you have to embrace technology, try it, see if it can work for you. And sometimes I can be against technology, as you might have seen in some racket reviews where I'm getting nostalgic about the good old days when rackets played like this. But recently, I did actually a racket test with my buddy Adam today, and he's a fan of old Prince rackets, as am I, and old head rackets and so on. But modern technology is improving that sweet spot, is improving the ease of use, and when you're playing like heavier spin players and people are generally upping their swing speeds. You need some help from the rackets, and that's just where modern rackets beat the old school frames. I know some of you won't like that, but it's just how it is, and that's something I've noticed. There's a great old school racket. We did play with this on Prestige Classic, Old Princess, as I said, I Prestige. We did try a lot today, and it's fun. But when it comes to playing a match, it's nice to have some extra help. So that's where technology comes into play. And it's actually, rackets are actually much better. I can give you one example. I bought an used K-Blade 98, which is a blade that many players use on the tour. Tsitsipas used it before this new racket, and that racket is very good still. Like, still a great blade, maybe one of the best, you could argue. But the sweet spot is smaller than the V9, for example. You do notice a difference. A blade is still kind of an old school frame, which is funny because it's not that old, but it's still kind of an old school frame. But the K-Blade can compete with the new one, but the new one has a little bit more forgiveness to it, a little bit easier to swing. That K-Blade showed me again for the 100th time or so that quality control was much worse back then. A lot of rackets were really far apart, unless you kind of count the Fischer with their zero tolerance project they had with their rackets, which was amazing. Rackets were all over the place, swing weights all over the place, and nowadays most manufacturers, in my experience, have really improved and made an effort to get the specs closer, and I'm very happy about that, and so should you, because if you buy 2-3 rackets, you're getting them closer these days than the complete whoppers you could get back in the day. So that's a little bit of it. Talking about technology, I also tried the Zenith smart courts at my favorite club here in Costa del Sol, Bel Air Tennis Club, and they have it on court 1 there. And what an amazing tool. I will make a video about this, but it's really cool because you can get like serve zones. So when you practice your serve, you get points depending on hitting certain zones. It measures your velocity, your spin, how many unforced errors and stuff you do. All in the court. You don't need to set anything up. You just need to start the system from the screen on the side of the court. That's kind of a modern way to gamify tennis. They have some kind of drills and stuff with added gamification features. Super fun. Really thought it like enhanced the experience a bit, and I think they will keep improving it. So Zenith is cool if you're a tennis club director, or you really want to make tennis like a cooler experience, even for the kids, or for making interesting coaching. I can really recommend checking it out, at least. Zenith, Zenniz. That's the website. So I will keep trying it before I publish the video. I want to give it a full review. But first impressions, very, very cool. I'm tech forward. I like to see tennis move places. That doesn't mean changing the rules or becoming a UTS, but embracing some tech that can make tennis a better experience, especially if you're considering that like paddle and pickleball are so much easier to get into, and we're losing some players because tennis is first of all, kind of old school sport, very competitive. Everybody's just kind of like measuring their UTR, NTRP, whatever you want. So it's a lot of egos in tennis, and it's not always the most sociable sport. It can be, of course. When you play doubles, social doubles is great, but it's so much easier to get into paddle and pickleball because of, just being an easier sport to play and to get into. So it is something we as tennis players have to think about. That does not mean bashing the other sports, because it's great that they exist. And they can also lead to more tennis players because maybe they transition from paddle or pickleball. That's happened from what I've heard. But we can maybe learn from them in terms of becoming a more engaging sport, especially for you who are new to tennis. I think sometimes that transition is costly, time-consuming, and quite difficult, and that might make you give up. So something to think about, something I talk about a lot. I know, I'm sorry if I'm boring you about it, but I've been thinking about it. I've also been watching some golf YouTube channels. I'm not a golfer. Well, I can play golf. I do maybe 1 round a year. I should maybe increase that, hopefully, at some point. But the golf YouTubers, they're doing a great job. I mean, there's some very good tennis YouTubers, of course, but it feels like golf is far ahead in like how to engage, the pros with the YouTubers, with amateurs, in creating engaging content, trying to grow the game. I did talk about this topic with Carousel also like 2 years ago, and talking about that, me and Caru have kind of just recently finished our third podcast. So that will be out very, very soon as well. So check out that space later in this week. But Golf YouTube, they do a great job. I don't even play the golf that much, and I was really impressed by how they package it and how some channels do it. That's some inspiration to kind of bring to tennis, and I hope I can up my game, because that needs upping. But that's one way for me to get some inspiration, and I thought maybe you could check it out as well. Maybe there's something we can learn from other sports. All right, that's me ranting for way too long. I hope you had a good Monday. It's time to do some editing before it's bedtime, and more tennis tomorrow. I think on 9th day in a row of tennis, still holding up. I hope you're well, and that you're not forgetting to play some tennis.